Say a few words?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for allowing me to accept this proclamation this year. And I just wanted to say I've had a really great time here interning in community development and being able to interact with the archives that we have of the city.
Very good. And so I know you go to USF. What year are you?
I'm a senior.
Senior. So you're
Yes.
graduating this spring?
Yes.
Very good.
And
You're going
on
to come,
grad school.
and then you're going to grad school.
Correct.
Okay. For what? What's your major?
Public history.
Oh, wonderful. So, city manager, we're going to try to squeeze in a employment opportunity here. We've done that before. So, very good. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good.
Thank you for your work. Next, we have Rabbi Lazer Rivkin. And I think that's his lovely wife, Devora, is with him. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Rabbi. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Mayor Andy Ross.
So you're very welcome. So we've always, for many years now, given a proclamation for Passover, and this year, the other Rabbi Rivkin, is he your brother?
No, he's our son.
Oh, he's your son. Okay. So he asked us.
He came here, he was a half a year old.
Okay. He asked us this year to do a proclamation for Education and Sharing Day and Passover. And so that's the reason that it's a little different this year. It was up upon his request. So, whereas education has long been recognized as the cornerstone of a strong and vibrant community, empowering individuals with knowledge, character, and the values necessary to contribute positively to society. Education and Sharing Day is observed annually to establish the importance of education, underscoring our dedication to encouraging the nation's youth to build a solid foundation for a lifetime of accomplishments. Education and Sharing Day pays tribute to the unique efforts of Rabbi, I'm gonna try my best on this, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, who made outstanding and lasting contributions towards improvements in world education, morality, and acts of charity, and was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. And in addition, the United States Congress established his birthday as a national day to raise awareness and strengthen the education of our children. The holiday of Passover encourages the sharing of stories across generations, reinforcing the importance of education, remembrance, and transmission of values that strengthen families and communities. The themes of education, compassion, freedom, and mutual responsibility reflected in both observances provide an opportunity for our community to reaffirm its commitment to learning, respect, and unity among people of all backgrounds. Now, therefore, I, Andrew Ross, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Temple Terrace, Florida, recognize the observance of Education and Sharing Day and Passover. And Rabbi, would you like to say a few words for us?
Sure. It's now 50 years that myself, my wife, and our children moved here. It's the Jubilee year. Temple Terrace was a lot smaller then. And thank God it has grown. And it is filled with men, women, children from all over the world. When I came here in 1976, my wife and our son and our one daughter, at that time, he was 6 months old. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, sent us here to bring Jewish kids to an educational level, non-Jewish children to the principles upon which our country has been based, belief in God we trust, in morality, and above all, in living together in harmony. This is Temple Terrace's 126, we're in the year 2026, year since its establishment. 100 is considered a fullness, a double jubilee. 26 is the numerical value of God's name. This is a city that has always been based on the principles of "In God we trust." We are an ingathering of all the peoples of the world here. Abraham was the father, you could say, the philosophical father of all of humanity in a sense. And so when his children went into exile in Egypt and then came forth from Egypt, a nation, they were a nation that took upon themselves the concept of a belief in one God. All of us here are descendants of those, except maybe a few rare indigenous peoples, but from those immigrants that came here to these shores and with God's help built a wonderful, flourishing America. A United States, the word is, and the key is, united. States, each separate, with each's beliefs and goals and aspirations, but united we stand. We are in turbulent times. May God bless us and guide us, for the principles upon which this country was based were by our founding fathers. In God we trust. And they came here to a shore of liberty, of freedom from oppression, of being given the opportunities to become a great nation. The greatest nation, one can say, in the world and in history. For in unity there is strength. And because we come from all the four corners of the earth here, we have the strength to create a Garden of Eden here. So thank you, all of you. It's good to see a packed room.
Thank you, Rabbi.
And in a way, just a little footnote. I remember writing in the Temple Terrace Beacon. I'm happy to see that it came back after a period of time, that it was waiting for the new generation to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
Pulled me out of the mothball. Then I only was a backseat driver.
Good.
Well, I'm glad they pulled you out. Thank you for coming tonight.
Happy, all of the religions, that we should all be rejuvenated again, together in a peaceful world.
Thank you, Rabbi. Next, Brother Stephen. Would you please come to the podium? So Brother Stephen is here with us tonight from the Catholic Brotherhood of Hope. He's a friend of mine and a neighbor also, not directly across the street, but right down the road. And so thank you for coming here tonight. I know I think you're left home alone as everybody's on spring break. Is that?
Nice and peaceful.
Well, thank you. Whereas Easter is the most sacred observance in Christianity and symbolizes new life, hope, and renewal, billions of Christians around the world celebrate Easter with worship, prayer, fellowship, and acts of service that reflect the enduring values of compassion, forgiveness, and charity. The Temple Terrace Christian community contributes meaningfully to the civic, cultural, and charitable life of our community through faith-based outreach, volunteerism, and support for neighbors in need. Easter is also a time when families and congregations come together in celebration, reinforcing the bonds of community, encouraging acts of goodwill, generosity, and unity among residents. Recognizing the diverse traditions and beliefs represented in our city, it is fitting to acknowledge occasions that hold deep meaning for members of our community that inspire service, hope, and shared humanity. Now therefore I, Andrew Ross, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Temple Terrace, Florida, recognize the profound significance of the Christian community's celebration of Easter. And so, brother, would you like to share a few words with us?
Well, thank you, Mayor. It's a blessing to be here. I have not been here as long as Rabbi. I've been here 3 years. But the great gift it is to be able to, living in Temple Terrace, I love it. I came from Boston this time. And just living here in the community, getting to know the folks has been a blessing. But also as we work with the students, seeing the eagerness, the hope, the desire for God that is there and their responsiveness to it. And what a privilege it is to be part of that and working with the young men and women and seeing the response. We have overflowing crowds at our services, but also at others we've seen them. And so it's a real joy and a blessing to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you, brother, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Nice and peaceful, is it?
It is great, nice and quiet.
Sorry. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Okay. We do actually have some city business that we're going to move on. So, council members, has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from our March 3rd meeting? And if they're acceptable, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? No nays. The minutes are adopted. Next, we have persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda. Requests to address the mayor and council are in the back of the chambers on the table, back near the door to the AV room. We do have a 30-minute time limit for this section of the meeting. If it's necessary, we will then stop the public comment section, move on to complete our agenda, and then resume public comment after the agenda has been done. That's not been a problem for a long time, but I like to announce it once in a while. We do have a 3-minute time limit imposed on each speaker from the public. We ask that speakers come to the podium and state their name and city of residence. During public comment, we want to assure everybody that your comments are taken seriously and that the city manager, the directors, and your council members and your mayor do take notes and follow up on issues that are brought up. So I currently have a number of requests to speak, but it's not too late. If you change your mind and request to address the council, you can still fill out a form and just give it to the city clerk. Our first request is from Nancy Hudson and Anita and June and Dave, so you guys can all come up. And let me guess what you're going to talk about. I can tell by the attire. Good evening, everybody. It's good to see you again.
Nancy Hudson, Temple Terrace. Thank you, Mayor Ross and council members. We are here to share our event that's coming up, which is our major fundraiser for the Arts Council, Art en Blanc. It will be on March 28th. It is at Woodmont Park. It's from 7 to 10 p.m. This is our 14th year holding the event, and again, it is our major fundraiser for the Arts Council. The Arts Council does so many things in Temple Terrace, but one of the main events it does is the Arts Festival in November, and this is one of the ways that we secure the funds to be able to make sure that we can hold the festival successfully in November. We all dress in white. Everyone wears white to the party. You can get your tickets on Eventbrite or on our website. You can buy a table or you can just simply buy a ticket. One of the fun things and one of the art parts about it is that we have a contest for all of the centerpieces and for the tablescapes, and there are awards given. So there's a lot of energy and a lot of art all around the event. It's really fun, and we enjoy doing it. We enjoy putting it together. The council is very small but very mighty, so we hope that we'll see all of you there, and we want to definitely invite the community to join us again this year for the 14th annual Art en Blanc.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. Nice to see you. Next, Mr. Loeb. Madam Clerk, don't forget the clock. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Loeb.
Good evening, everybody. Charles Loeb, Terrace Park. First of all, wish you happy St. Patrick's Day. I have a little green on my thing. And I put my green ink in my thing, too, in my request to speak. Speaking of events, there's been quite, I didn't know about that one, but there's quite a few ones coming up, or have been. The one event that I thought about is March 26th to March 28th, which is the library sale coming up. But we have had, over the first half of the month, 5 events, which I listed down on the thing. However, the thing I want to focus on, particularly tonight, is the comp plan. I was thinking about some of the details and some of the things that I was talking about. Number one, I want to address it to the mayor. They were telling me that they plan on revising the Fowler Avenue Vision Study from 50 to 56th Street. Now, what I asked them was, let's suppose the mayor wanted to go further east. Would you be willing to do that? And when I asked them that, they said yes. So that's something you might want to think about, rather you would want to have Fowler Avenue studied, the area studied further east or not. The other things I wanted to talk about were several things on the presentation, several numbers on it. The first number was about $70,000 is the median income around here, which is rather comparable from what I saw in the Fowler Avenue Vision Study for Hillsborough County and the city of Tampa. So I'm not going to make too much about that. Another a little bit surprising thing is that the median age is 36.3. Now, that might not sound like anything, but it's 3 years younger than the national average, according to them. But the main figure I want to focus on tonight is what people pay in relation to their income for their mortgage payments. That's 37.5%. Typically, according to them, this is 7.5% over what people should be paid. I asked them if that statistic includes like property taxes, property insurance. One thing I forgot to ask them was toward basic upkeep. I guess the point I'm trying to get at is what I said before. It is kind of hard on people because they're paying a lot of money when you put that all together, and that doesn't even count other forms of expenses. I hope I hope in the future that when they do the comp plan that they will do a thing where they will consider property taxes, property insurance, basic upkeep, and things like that when they do the statistics in the future. I don't know if you want to call it a misery index or anything like that, but you might call it a true cost of owning property within this community or any other community. Thank you all and good evening. And again, happy St. Patrick's Day. And again, reminder of the library sale.
Thank you, Mr. Loeb. Next, we have Blanche Hampton. Good evening, Ms. Hampton.
Hi, good evening. My name is Blanche Hampton. I was born in Temple Terrace. I've come back to take care of my aging mother. I wanted to speak to you today. I'm here today to express dismay over the current approach by Code Compliance to aid in its mission on behalf of the city to increase expectations and standards of Temple Terrace. That is straight from the website. The current courtesy notices being handed out and the conversations being had need to be reconsidered. They are not reflective of the community that I thought Temple Terrace was. I was born here and have come back here. The courtesy notices and the pressured conversations are heavy-handed, going out of bounds of a communal interest and frankly insensitive to the needs of the longest of residents. I happen to live on Royal Greens Drive, and the median age about a year or two ago was 74. That's important because the current approach, I think, is a bit insensitive to the generational differences of the residents of this community. Forcing a housekeeper out of the house to listen to you when you have been told that the person to speak is not at home is not acceptable in the current climate. Threatening that visitor with a courtesy notice, a visitor to the house, the housekeeper, and stating that the police can ticket her is very unnecessary today. The notices are not a courtesy at all, as they are written with a QR code which many residents cannot access. Many residents just don't use their smartphones, if they have a smartphone at all, if they can open up the handset, if they even know what a telephone is anymore. The notices seem friendly, but they are handed over to the resident. Sorry. This is not a holistic approach to encouraging homeowners to gather resources that they may not have. What resources does the city have for its aging residents other than Lightfoot? What consideration is given to its older residents who have been here sometimes for 50 years, paid their taxes, paid for their insurance, made sure that their lawn was mowed, but right now may not have the resources, whether it be time or money or the connections, to have a mortar specialist, a Spanish tile specialist on hand. When an officer is called or drives out, what research informs that officer walking up to the door? What do they know about the person within? What do they know about that resident, how long they've been there, how old they are, what their disabilities are, what their challenges are? Calls to the department suggest that code compliance officers see their role as educators and not, ooh, I'm done, cooked. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hampton. And we're sorry for the frustration that you're experiencing. City Manager, I'm sure you're going to follow up on that. Would you send the council an update when you do? I'm sure we'd all like to keep informed on that. Thank you. Anthony Guido. Good evening, sir.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm Anthony Guido. I live here in Temple Terrace for almost 10 years now. When I heard the city was having an Easter proclamation, I had to come. Easter is such an important time for Christians. It's not about springtime, and it's not about the Easter bunny. It's about the resurrection of Christ. It's a historical fact that Jesus lived and performed many miracles. He gave sight to a blind man, healed a paralyzed man, and everybody's favorite, he turned water into wine. For performing all these miracles, he was crucified. Then 3 days later, defeated death and rose from the tomb. That's what we are celebrating, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, the greatest miracle of all. I'd like to read a scripture. Mark 16, 5-7. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side. They were alarmed. "Don't be alarmed," he said. "You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. See his place where they laid him. But go, tell the disciples and Peter, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guido. Next is Alyssa Hines. Good evening, Ms. Hines.
Hello. First, I just want to say thank you for the Mayor Ross for that beautiful Easter proclamation. We celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but to truly understand what Easter means, we need to look at what happened after the resurrection. In Acts 1:3, it says, "After his suffering, he presented himself to them and gave many convincing proofs that he was alive." Jesus didn't rise quietly and disappear. He appeared to his followers, spoke with them, and proved that death had been defeated. Because of that truth, everything changed for the disciples. Just weeks earlier, they were afraid to even admit they knew Jesus, but after witnessing the resurrection and receiving the Holy Spirit, they began boldly preaching everywhere. Biblically, the book of Acts shows us something remarkable. The same 12 disciples who once hid in fear after Jesus was crucified suddenly became bold leaders who changed the world. Why? Because they had seen the risen of Jesus. The disciples weren't famous leaders, weren't politicians or kings. They were just ordinary men, fishermen, tax collectors, everyday people. But because they believed in the rising of Christ, they spoke boldly and lives were transformed. When authorities tried to silence them, they refused. In Acts 2, Peter the apostle stood before a crowd in Jerusalem and declared the truth about Jesus. Acts 2:41 tells us something incredible. Those who accepted his message were baptized, and about 3,000 of them were added to that number that day. 3,000 people in one day. In Acts 4:20, Peter and the other apostles said, "For we cannot help speaking about what we have seen and heard. That courage is the heartbeat of Easter. And at times, we are afraid to share our faith in Christ because it might make people feel uncomfortable or even reject us. Peter and John's passion for the Lord was so strong that they could not keep quiet, even when threatened. But the truth is this: Jesus did not die for us to keep it a secret. The resurrection wasn't meant to be hidden, and the message of Easter is that the greatest news of the world had ever heard, that through Jesus, forgiveness is possible, hope is real, and eternal life is offered to everyone. The 12 disciples went on to spread the message around the world. Cities changed, families changed, nations changed, and billions of lives have been impacted because they refused to stay silent. So for Christians today, Easter is a reminder: do not be afraid to share your faith. Speak with love, speak with courage, and the same power that changed the disciples lives in us. And for anyone still wondering what they believe, the resurrection invites you to ask an honest question. What if it's true? Because if Jesus truly rose from the dead and he is who exactly claimed to be. And that means his invitation still stands today. So follow him and believe in him. Experience life that Easter promises. Jesus didn't die for us to keep it a secret. So let's have Easter be the moment Christians find the courage to speak, and moment seekers find the courage to believe. Because the resurrection isn't just a story from history, it's an invitation. The men in the Acts of the Apostles weren't powerful, famous, or perfect, but they had something stronger than fear. They had witnessed the risen Christ, and because of that, they changed the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Lori Barclay Collette. Good evening, ma'am.
I would like to thank the mayor and the city council for the Easter proclamation. My name is Lori Barclay Collette. I've lived in Temple Terrace since 1987. And I'm a retired neurologist. I was involved in academic neurology at Cornell University and then at University of South Florida, and then was in private practice in Temple Terrace for many years at 12101 North 56th Street. I am now the Bible study teacher and worship leader of New Life Bible Church, which will have our first service this coming Sunday in the same location, 12101 North 56th Street. I want to thank the city, as I said, for this proclamation because as a neurologist I can speak personally to the importance of hope in everyone's life. And we live in perilous times, in troubling times. We're in the midst of wars. We have had casualties involving troops from our very own city. We suffered so many losses of life and incurrence of disabilities from the pandemic in 2019. And thereafter, we've gone through the devastation of storms and hurricanes in recent years. We are suffering the effects of economic downturn and joblessness. And with all this, we need to say we need hope. And I believe that the Easter proclamation and its respect for the belief that Christians have in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ as the only way to eternal life, I believe that is the hope that the world needs and that Temple Terrace specifically needs. And I thank you for that proclamation. The Bible says, and I believe, that Jesus was crucified, came to earth as the perfect, sinless Son of God, the Lamb of God, who took on the sins of all the world and paid for them in his own flesh by dying on that cross on our behalf. And then he was buried and rose again on the third day, that all who trust him would have eternal life. I thank you again for recognizing this fact and the hope that it brings to so many people worldwide. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Doctor. Patrick Brown. Lauren Brown, I'm assuming that's you? Are you donating time to Patrick? You are? Okay. So that gives you 4 minutes, Mr. Brown.
Well, thank you, everyone. It's so nice to see you all.
Hold on, let the clerk reset the clock.
Okay.
I don't want any confusion here, and we set it for 12 minutes, and
we
start to filibuster, and that's just bad. 4 minutes?
Some grievances.
Okay, now we're good. We're good. Patrick, you're all up.
No, I don't have any grievances. I want to thank everyone up here, first of all, for that wonderful Easter proclamation. Thank you so much. That is what I'm up here to speak about. I am a Temple Terrace resident. I've lived in Temple Terrace for about 10-ish years. Moved to Tampa in 2007 to go to college. And I just wanted to speak about Jesus. So God created the world, right? Everything was perfect and beautiful in the garden, and it was just awesome. He also created mankind. And he had a perfect relationship with man, and God had a perfect relationship with us. And then man decided to sin and disobey God. And sin in Hebrew means to miss the mark, to miss that target. So we missed God's target. And when that happened, we fell. We fell from grace and glory. Sin is anything that, like I said, misses the target, or anything that anything we think, say, or do that dishonors God, right? And that caused sin to enter the world and be broken. Disease, frustrations with the government, frustrations with our neighbors, frustrations with our spouses, frustrations with broken families, war, death, you name it, disease, doesn't matter. People tried to escape this brokenness through chasing money, chasing success, chasing perfect health, chasing relationships, pleasure, or new experiences, or anything like that. God knew that people couldn't address their own sin, and that's why he sent his son Jesus. Jesus lived a perfect life, a life just like ours. For many years, he was a carpenter and a stonemason to build buildings and have a business, probably inherited in Joseph's business as well. And in that, he started his ministry, led 12 young men, and eventually told them, hey, I'm going to have to sacrifice myself in order to save you. And so he did. He lived that perfect life, a sinless life, and he died that death on the cross that we deserved as a ransom to pay for our sins. 3 days later, he rose from the dead. This proves that he is the Son of God, and that he says he is. With this resurrection, he defeated death and sin, and he is now seated at the right hand of the Father, and has been given all authority in heaven and on earth. So Jesus died to pay for our sins. This is a gift we have to choose to accept. To accept this gift of salvation, you must surrender your life to Jesus, believing that he died and rose from the dead, repenting of your sin, and making him the king of your life. To repent means to turn away from sin, to turn back towards your Creator and your Father. When you accept this gift of salvation, you will become a new person in God. You will enjoy a restored relationship with him and spend eternity in heaven with God and Jesus. The only way to get back to God is through Jesus' sacrifice. I want to say that when I was a child, I grew up in the church, and my father was a worship pastor, or worship leader, and he would always sing this song, or this hymn, based off of Hebrews 3:15. And I just want to say that, as it says, "Oh, that today you would listen as he speaks. Do not harden your hearts as in the rebellion." Thank you once again for this proclamation, and I hope you all have a great evening.
Mr. Brown, are there other members of the public who wish to address the council? That's the last request I have. Are there other members of the public who wish to address the council? Okay. If not, council, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda is adopted. Thank you. Next, we have a series of public hearings. The first one is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance rezoning folios 38206.0000 for property located at 7911 Harney Road, and folio 38206.0020, otherwise known as RZP-25-04, from agricultural urban to public quasi-public. And I will open the public hearing. And our city planner, the famous Joe Moretta, is here to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We've already been through the numbers, so I'll go ahead and get right to the meat of the issue. The property that's the subject of the rezoning is intended to house the public safety facility, which in itself will include the police department headquarters and fire station number 3. This is generally located, the parcel is generally located on the south side of Harney Road, approximately 1,500 feet east of the intersection of 78th Street, North 78th Street. The parcel itself is 5 acres large, totaling 2 folios. The site is currently vacant. The future land use is community mixed use 12. The existing zoning is agricultural urban, and the site will have access to Harney Road, which is a Hillsborough County arterial. The adjacent future land uses include to the north, community mixed use 12. To the south and east also are community mixed use 12. And to the west is residential 6, which is in Hillsborough County. In terms of existing land use, to the north is a warehouse distribution center. To the south is undeveloped property. To the east is also undeveloped property. And to the west, again, is in Hillsborough County as well, and that's a single-family subdivision. The adjacent zoning to the north, where the warehouse is planned development. To the south and east is agricultural urban, and to the west is a planned development, which is again, the subdivision in Hillsborough County. In terms of the review, the application was transmitted to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission staff reviewed this and found it to be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. In terms of your City of Temple Terrace staff, this was also reviewed by the Development Review Committee. The DRC had no objections to its approval. The standard district rezoning does not require a conceptual site plan, so the City Council will see a final site plan brought forward in a separate process in the future. Our findings on the review were that the proposed rezoning is compatible with the existing zoning and land uses in the area, that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. Staff is recommending approval, and we are recommending the scheduling of the second reading on April 7th. I'm available if anyone has any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moretta. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council members, are there questions? Okay, if there are no questions, I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, rezoning 2 parcels totaling 5 acres plus or minus, generally located on the south side of Harney Road, approximately 1,500 feet east of the intersection of North 78th Street, more specifically described as Folio 38206.0000, 7911 Harney Road, and Folio 38206.0020, and legally described in Exhibit A, changing the zoning atlas map designation on said property from zoning classification agricultural urban, AU, to public, quasi-public, P/QP, providing for amendment of the official zoning atlas map of the city, providing for severability, providing for correction of typographical errors, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, if there is a motion, we need 2 things done in the motion. One is to approve this on first reading, and second thing that needs to be in the motion is to schedule the second reading for April 7th. So is there such a motion?
Move to approve first reading of ordinance rezoning Folio 38206.0000, 7911 Harney Road, and Folio 38206.0020, RZP-25-04, from agricultural urban to public quasi-public, and to schedule the second reading for April 7th.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No nays. Ordinance is approved on first reading and will appear for second reading and public hearing on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. Thank you, Mr. Moreta.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. We'll see you in April.
Very good, thank you. Next item is a public hearing and first reading of a resolution approving final site plan SPR-25-09 for West Coast Brace and Limb located at 13401 North 53rd Street. I'll open the public hearing, and our senior planner, the soon-to-be famous senior planner, Alyssa Livingstone, is here to present. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Alyssa Livingstone, the senior planner. This presentation is for the consideration of approval for final site plan SPR 2509 for the development of a medical office for West Coast Brace and Limb located at 13401 North 53rd Street. Please note that this is the first reading and first public hearing for this application. The property is 0.88 acres in size and is within a planned development zoning district. The applicant seeks to demolish existing single-family residence and associated structures on the site. The project involves the construction of a 10,000 square foot, one-story medical office. The property is bordered to the north by West Coast Brace and Limb, representing the primary facility for which this proposed project serves as an expansion. The site is abutted by medical offices to the west, commercial buildings to the east, and single-family residences to the south. Here is the overall site plan. There are 33 on-site parking spaces. This includes 2 accessible ADA spaces. Primary access to the site and the main parking area is provided via North 53rd Street on the western boundary of the property. A secondary access point is located on the north side, connecting the site to the abutting long-standing West Coast Brace and Limb property. A stormwater pond is proposed for the southwestern portion of the site. A landscape plan is included in the plan set that is designed in accordance with the city's land development code requirements. This is the west elevation, which serves as the main entry point as viewed from the street. This is the north elevation, showing the side view of the building. This is the east elevation, showing the rear side of the building. This is the south elevation, showing the other side view of the building. There are 4 conditions with this approval. These include standard conditions regarding date stamp on plans and land development code language. The plan will expire in 2 years as per section 12-380 of the Land Development Code. Where standards are not specified herein, the city's LDC standards or current code standards will apply. Prior to any permits being issued by the city, a perpetual easement that is acceptable to the city attorney must be obtained from the owner of the abutting property to the north. This easement shall allow for portions of the parking spaces, dumpster and pad, and cross-access aisles that encroach beyond the northern property line of the subject property. The easement must be recorded in the official records for Hillsborough County. For the record, both parcels are owned by the same individual but are registered under two different LLC or business names. If approved tonight, the item will move forward to the April 7th City Council meeting for the second reading and the second public hearing. Thank you. The applicant's representative is present and available for any project-specific questions.
Thank you, Ms. Livingstone. The applicant wish to make any, you don't have to, but you're welcome to if you'd like to add anything. You're certainly welcome.
I don't think I
Good
need
evening.
to-
We just need your name if you're
For the
gonna.
record, my name is Patricia Ortiz. My address is 2810 North Central Avenue, Tampa, Florida. I don't have anything to add, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Ortiz. So we'll get to that next. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Are there members, we're running out of members of the public altogether, but are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Mr. Loeb?
It isn't exactly
You-
comment, it's a question. Charles Love, Terrace Park. It's not exactly a comment, but really just a question. I was wondering if to make sure to notify that the synagogue get notified. It's pretty close to the synagogue, and I want to make sure that they're notified. It's kind of ironic that the rabbi had left before that to see if they have any comments about the project. It's just on the other block down there or so. So I did want to make sure that was mentioned. I guess the rabbi will get, the synagogue will get notification about that, or I assume so, about exactly what it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Loeb. So we notify, according to state law prescribes how we notify, and the synagogue's on 52nd Street. This is on 53rd Street, so. Everything, I guess, is pretty close. Yes, Mr. Mueller.
I realize we haven't done the ex parte communication
Oh,
on this, so if we could probably do it now, and for all the items that are under, that are for public hearing tonight.
all of them.
Yeah, we'll do it all at once.
So that would be the rezoning we just did.
Yes.
This issue of the site plan. The next is amending the land development code for permitted signs. And the final one is the solid waste collection and disposal.
Actually, it'll only be 12A and 12B. They're the quasi judicial.
12A and 12B. So it was the last one regarding the rezoning and this one regarding the site plan.
So if we want, we can take care of it right now.
Okay, if you would like to poll the council?
Sure. Just asking if any of the council members have had any ex parte communications regarding either item 12A or 12B, the two quasi judicial items we have in front of you. If you've had any verbal communications, if you could please disclose when and where those communications took place, with whom, and what the substance of those communications were. And if you've had any written communications, if you could, again, identify those and then get them to the clerk to put in the record.
So, Mr. Mueller, can I, just for clarification, this is pertaining to me, but I question, it might be pertaining to everybody else too. So this is just regarding the rezoning, because we've had a lot of discussions about the public safety complex and the purchase of the property. Most of that would have happened in a public meeting, but.
First of all, yeah, most of you did have public hearings on those, but yeah, just for the rezoning.
Just for the rezoning.
For this matter that's in front.
And the West Coast Brace and Limb, the same thing, because that came before us years ago for.
Yes, just what's in front of you today. If anybody had talked to you about these matters today.
I have none.
I've had none.
I've had none regarding these specific.
I've had none with his rezoning requests on these.
Just to clarify, you're asking if I've talked to anyone about the Harney Road property in terms of changing its zoning from one specific zoning to another specific zoning, and we're not talking about anything else?
Correct.
Then I have not had any ex parte communications on either of these two topics.
Good. Okay, where were we? Questions, right? Is that where we were? Yes, Councilmember Fernandez.
So I have a question. I'm not really sure who would answer this, but I know that both parcels are owned by the same party and that they're going to work together and they have to have the easement agreement in order to move forward. But does that easement agreement then move forward with those parcels into the future if the parcels are sold?
Yes, the easement will be recorded into the official record of Hillsborough County, which will then make it run with the land with both properties.
So if in the future, if these properties were sold or maybe one property, but the other property remained in this business's possession, how would the city know that this easement runs with the land? What do we do in order to ensure that?
We'll get a copy of the recorded easement. Also, I've been working with the owners. They have provided me a draft. They do need to do one more thing, which is if they do modify or somehow try and cancel this easement, they are going to have to get the consent of the city, because it will affect the whether this, the site plan approval and their site plan at all stays valid. So that will be in that easement, that they will have to notify us and get our consent, especially if they're going to cancel this easement, because it's going to affect the site plan.
Okay, and I just have one more question. It has to do with just traffic in general.
Okay.
With the 53rd Street, so this property would have access from 53rd Street, but it would also have access from the original property from Fletcher? So people would be able to come in from both Fletcher and 53rd Street?
I have a slide for that. Thank you. Please hold. Mario? Can you go back? Please hold.
Like that, please hold.
Okay. Sorry about that. We lost internet earlier on, so. Maria? Okay. Councilmember Fernandez?
Yes.
Okay, I'm following up on your question. So this slide refers to the chicane detail. So on the left of the screen, you're gonna see where the existing chicane is on North 53rd Street. The proposed chicane will be relocated 30 feet south of its original position to allow for two-way access into the medical facility from North Fletcher Avenue. Traffic flow from the neighborhood onto North 53rd Street will remain one-way outbound onto North Fletcher, maintained by two, and it will be maintained by two exit-only signs as currently configured. So on the diagram on the right, you're going to see where the chicane will be shifted 30 feet south. The chicane will be shifting 30 feet south, but it won't affect the functionality of the chicane. This will just allow for entrance and exit out of the expansion of West Coast Brace and Limb.
Okay, that is what I was asking about, because I know that these streets are one-way typically in and out, so that's it.
Good, council members. Other questions? Councilmember Schisler.
Yes, you haven't been here long enough for this, and the mayor alluded to this before. This is not the first time the West Coast has been before for council. Were there any historical requests not completed? This is like, we're talking 6-7 years ago, that there was something coming. I remember the chicane was an issue, and I don't remember what transacted, and and if all of those projects were ever completed or what the status of that was.
Yeah, we approved it.
Yeah, but I mean, was there anything that, you approved it, but I don't know that it was ever fulfilled? Is there any?
2018, okay. I'm going to let the representative speak to it.
Again, Patricia Ortiz. I think what you're referring to is the 2018 rezoning for this southernmost parcel. Okay, that was requested in 2018 and approved in 2019. There is a time limit within which the site plan must be approved to keep the approval of the plan development active. What we've done to qualify for this modification was demonstrate that through the permit extension and tolling was valid because of the many states of emergency between 2019 and 2024, including COVID-19 and a number of hurricanes associated with the state of Florida and approved by the governor as states of emergency. So that extended the period within which we could ask for modification of the PD. We did that within the required time frame, utilizing those tolling and extension measures. And now we're here before you with the site plan to finally complete the approval process for this project.
Okay, so it's just basically it's a continuation of what was approved.
Exactly. There
I
were
thought it was
some
very
minor
familiar,
changes.
but it was, okay, that's fine.
Very minor.
I remember the chicane was going to be moved. There was all kinds of issues, but I don't remember it ever being completed. So.
Correct, and that's because of those states.
No, it's not a negative question. It wasn't intended to be. It was just it was rattling cobwebs, and it was like I thought we had already been down this road once before on this project.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, Councilmember Kravitz?
Just want to direct my thanks to Ms. Ortiz for investing in Temple Terrace, and thank you for creating, 14-plus jobs, so well done.
Thank you.
That's all.
Questions? I have a question, and I'm not sure who's best to answer it, so I'll just throw it out there and you guys pick. I remember back in 2018 or 19, whenever this came before us, one of the questions I had concerned GPS and where GPS would take you to get to this property. And what I had asked back then, and nobody really knew the answer to this because addresses are issued by Hillsborough County, and they typically are issued on the street wherever the front door faces. What I was trying to accomplish is to set this up somehow so that it was addressed with a Fletcher Avenue address, so that if you got in an Uber or a Lyft or you put it in Waze or Google Maps to go to this address, it would not take you down turning off of 56th Street on the 131st and then north on 53rd to get to it. Because then all of that traffic would be routed by GPS through the neighborhood. Whereas if it had a, I don't know, 5507B or whatever address on Fletcher, it would, I don't know if this would even solve it. Now, 6 years have passed and so much has changed in technology. I don't know how this even works. I don't know if it would take it through the neighborhood anyway.
I think I can.
Okay, because I do know from personal experience, I live not far from there, and when I Uber from the airport, every single time it turns the Uber north off of Fowler Avenue into the don't enter the neighborhood, and the Uber driver just freezes because they're not supposed to go off the route, and they don't know how to get in, and they really like, okay, am I going to get in trouble with my employer, or am I going to get a ticket from the police? What am I going to do?
Gotcha. So in this particular situation, we've done two things.
Okay.
We've moved the chicane further south.
That's very helpful.
That's very helpful. But to answer the first part of your question, most people, when they're trying to reach West Coast Brace and Limb, they're going to type into their phone the business name, and that's going to take them to the address on Fletcher Avenue. We have two separate addresses because we have two separate parcels. The reason why we have two separate parcels is largely because the site was annexed into the city after it was built. So because there are two parcels, there are two addresses, but the official business address is on Fletcher Avenue. That is if you type into your phone, you're going to West Coast Brace and Limb, it's going to take you to the Fletcher address.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, but the chicane is definitely, movement of the chicane was definitely, the impetus of that was to keep that traffic off of 53rd Street.
Well, that is helpful to keep southbound stragglers from going into the neighborhood exiting, but it doesn't do anything for people if they are coming into, because you're allowed to drive past the chicane to exit, you just can't drive past it coming in.
Yeah.
So,
I did reach out to Google Maps and try to figure out how we
Did you?
could do that, but it's kind of a,
Yeah, I know.
I got the answer. You're going to type in the business name. It's going to take you to that main business.
well,
address.
there's probably some truth to that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any other questions. Are there other questions, council members? Okay. If there are no other questions, if the resolution is acceptable, is there a motion?
Yes, Mayor. Move to approve first reading of a resolution approving final site plan.
Excuse me, I think I need to read the item.
You probably do.
Is it, oh, I missed that because it's a resolution, not an ordinance. I'm sorry. Thank you for that. So I'll ask the clerk to read the title of the resolution and then you're back.
A resolution of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, approving site plan review application SPR-25-09 for .88 plus or minus acres of property located east of North 53rd Street and south of East Fletcher Avenue with folio number 036-993-0000, addressed as 13401 North 53rd Street, to allow for the development of a new 10,000 square foot, one-story medical office, subject to conditions of approval, providing for the correction of typographical errors, repealing all resolutions or parts of resolutions in conflict herewith, providing an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Vice Mayor, back to you.
Thank you. Move to approve on first reading a resolution approving final site plan SPR 25-09 for West Coast Brace and Limb located at 13401 North 53rd Street with the conditions as listed.
Second.
Second reading. Can you add the second reading?
Oh, and add the second reading on April 7th.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. The resolution is adopted on first reading and will appear for a second reading and public hearing on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Next is a public hearing and second reading of Ordinance 1591, amending Land Development Code Section 12-984, permitted signs. I will open the public hearing, and our Community Development Deputy Director, Marissa Robinson, is here to explain. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Marissa Robinson with Community Development. I'm here to present proposed text amendment to the city's Land Development Code regarding permitted signs. The amendment pertains to Section 12-984, permitted signs, modifying the matrices 3, 4, 5, and 6. Currently, these matrices limit businesses located on the corner lots to only one wall sign. Under the proposed changes, the sign will be two wall signs will be permitted on corner lots provided that they meet the conditions of footnote X, which states on corner lots a building occupying the corner may be permitted a second wall sign, provided that each of the two wall signs is located on a different street-facing facade. Staff is recommending approval on second reading of LDC 2502, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council members, are there questions?
I just have one.
Councilmember Fernandez.
And this is just for anybody who might be listening, just a confirmation that there's no change in the size or the specifications of a sign, only that you're allowed to have a second one on your wall facing a different street.
Correct.
Other questions, council members? If not, I will close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending Section 12-984 of the City Code of Ordinances titled Permitted Signs, amending matrices 3, 4, 5, and 6, adding footnote X, providing for severability, providing for correction of typographical errors, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for codification, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, is there a motion?
Move to approve on second reading, excuse me, ordinance 1591, amending the Land Development Code, section 12-984 for permitted signs.
Second.
Good, there's a motion and a second. Discussion of the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? No nays. Thank you, Ms. Robinson. The ordinance is adopted on second reading. Next is a public hearing and second reading of ordinance 1592, amending chapter 22, article 6, solid waste collection and disposal. I will open the public hearing, and our Public Works Director, Jason Orenfeld, is here to present. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. This public hearing is the second reading for revisions to Ordinance 1592, amending Chapter 22, Article 6 of the City Code of Ordinances relating to the solid waste collection and disposal. The proposed changes primarily update language, clarify operational procedures, and align the city's regulations with current industry practices and environmental standards. The amendments improve clarity regarding collection requirements, recycling practices, and administrative provisions while maintaining the current level of service for residents and businesses. The ordinance was approved on first reading at a previous meeting, which was March 7th, and proper public notice has been provided. Staff recommends approval of Ordinance 1592 on second reading. Before I conclude, I want to address a few concerns that were expressed by a city council member. The city clerk is handing out an updated version to the revisions, which addresses a legacy typo error. Under section 22-336, the phrase hazardous water is mentioned. Under the definition for solid waste, it has been corrected to read dangerous hazardous waste materials. There was also a question when a resident places a cardboard box, piece of broken plastic, old carpet, or furniture into their city-issued trash can, would that technically be placing class 3 material in a container? Yes, that is technically what what they should not be doing. But if the residential container is if the item is bagged or concealed in a manner that is not obvious to staff for identification purposes, it'll randomly occur. If the items are protruding from the residential container and staff are able to spot that, they will continue to follow the current practices by tagging those items or those cans with tags that allow the resident to call Public Works for options for their disposal. Lastly, section 22-337 was questioned if the title was accurate. This section was previously titled City Not to Pick Up Building Construction Materials. That is not the correct title for that section. It was updated to a more appropriate title that clearly provided clarity for the purpose of collection for construction and demolition class 3 materials. And I'm available for any questions.
I have one real quick. So I was trying to read and listen, and that doesn't ever work. So tell me again what happens if a residential customer puts cardboard in their trash can?
So
I know you said it, but
So cardboard is, in the recycling aspect, considered a clean material. So pizza boxes, a box with contaminants, maybe you got an old rag in there and it's saturated with some sort of material that is not, that keeps it clean. You place those in your residential trash, it goes for solid waste, it goes to the incinerator, and it's repurposed that way. So clean cardboard, obviously, you put in your city recycling container. We pick it up in our recycling. It goes back to the recycler and then repurposed. So What I had said there is if you put a contaminated cardboard box, like food contamination, whatever, a broken piece of plastic, things that are considered construction, demolition debris, or class 3 materials into your residential waste, on a residential level, it's okay. But if it's an industrial size, if you have a construction renovation project at your home and you're putting all the drywall and the insulation and the studs and the flooring in your residential container, that's not acceptable. Those materials are handled by a commercial type dumpster, roll off, front load, things like that.
Okay, but if I buy a new water heater at my house, I can still put I don't know if it comes in a box or not, buy an oven or whatever, a washing machine, you can still dispose of that as a homeowner. You don't have to have a special.
Correct. Yeah. If it's in a cardboard box, okay, you cut it up, you put it in your recyclables, and we take it away.
I think I saw. Did you have a question? Yes, Councilmember Kravitz.
First of all, I really, really appreciate this revision. Thank you very much for doing that. I fully support the intention of this and the goal. I'm not trying to cause trouble, as I'm sometimes accused of doing. I just want to make absolutely sure that because let's be clear, most people throw a lot of cardboard out.
Sure.
And we're fine with that, right?
Yeah, so the cardboard will get recycled. I mean, the residential waste goes to the incinerator, which the incinerator burns it to make electric, right? So it gets recycled at some fashion. If it's not in the recycling container, it doesn't make that truck, which goes to the cardboard recycler.
So when it comes to the definition of class 3 materials, and I think that's sort of like where the legislative cross-section is here in terms of the problem. Could we maybe define it as, when we have here examples include but are not limited to cardboard, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Maybe we just add the phrase, in quantities not typically generated by a resident or something along those lines. This is just me sort of legislating off the top of my head here in terms of the phrasing, because right now what we have is a definition that captures cardboard, carpet, and plastic, as well as yard trash, furniture, and appliances, which is common. It's common for residents to throw these things out. These are captured as examples of industrial solid waste, which are not supposed to go. So the enforcement mechanism here is capturing waste types that people do commonly throw out, that we're fine with them throwing out, but we're saying that they're throwing out industrial waste. And even though, you're saying, and I believe you, that we're fine with that and we're going to pick it up, we have to write that in our statute, right?
So I think the one section, or the one piece that is important here is the leachate part, right? So if the cardboard's contaminated that it could produce the leachate, that is when it is no longer a class 3 material. It is considered a solid waste material. That is the difference in our handling procedures. So in the definition, it says industrial solid waste that is inert and not expected to produce leachate. So if cardboard is contaminated, it will produce a leachate. It is considered solid waste. It'll go to the incinerator. If cardboard is clean, has no leachate producing characters, it'll go to the recycler. So residents can throw away their cardboard either in the recycling or in the trash can. It's whether it's contaminated or not. It depends on how we handle it. Now, does the recycling crew get contaminated material? Absolutely. Does the recycler accept it? Absolutely. But again, that is in the volume of what we pick up and what we haul and what we dispose of. It is hard for staff to flip through every piece of cardboard and say, this one's good, this one's bad, this one's good, this one's bad. We really rely on the recyclers to do that. We do receive a small charge back for large quantities of contaminated materials that go to the recycler. Right. It is a very small quantity where I'm honestly dollars, $5, $7. It's not anything that is worth us as staff spending time sorting this stuff out. The act of the trucks picking up, getting done throughout the day, it takes their day to do their assigned route. So we as a department are perfectly fine with the way this is written and explained, as we can share it with the residents and the staff and hopefully get them comfortable.
I appreciate that very much. I understand sort of the direction you're going, but the way this is drafted, doesn't mesh with that, and from what I can tell. So perhaps we could include an exemption for quantities that are typical for a household. How about something along those lines? Just keep the definition and say, exempted from this are quantities that are typically generated by a household, right? And then we don't need to maneuver ourselves into a situation where on paper, everyone is throwing out industrial plastic, industrial cardboard, industrial furniture and appliances when they're just people who live here and they have some junk and they're just throwing it in their trash can because that's what they've always done, right?
So I believe you're, and I'm not ad-libbing it, I think I understand this. You're looking at this as more of a enforcement technique, right?
Sort of. I mean, I'm happy to go into a dialogue. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
So what we have here is that we have a section in class 3 materials here, which are not going to be picked up, right? And that was the header issue that we also addressed later in this statute, where it was a mix-up between like, this is going to be picked up and not going to be picked up. We revised that. What we have now is a situation where class 3 materials are qualified as industrial waste and they're not going to be picked up by the city. And then examples of that kind of waste are cardboard, plastic, furniture, appliances, among other things. What we can have is a situation where we're defining what people are throwing out in their municipal trash cans as industrial waste class 3. But then on the other hand, we're saying we're going to pick it up anyway, even though under our own statute, we're not allowed to do that anymore based on how we've written this. All we need to do to fix this problem is exempt those things in terms of the quantities that a typical household produces. And then we're fine, because we're saying these might be examples of industrial waste, but when it's just a typical person throwing these things out, it's not industrial waste, right? Because they're not an industry, they're just an individual. But what we're doing is we're telling everyone in Temple Terrace, you're throwing out cardboard and that's an industrial waste material, and technically we're not allowed to pick it up, but we're going to do it anyway. But there's no statute. It's not written like that. That's the problem. And we don't have to pass this today. We can go back and look at it in 2 weeks. That was my suggestion. So, but I mean, I think I struggle with that. And, you know, as Mayor Ross pointed out, you know, what if he gets a water heater, he cuts it up. No one's checking any of this cardboard for whether it has leachate or anything like that. And like you said, the chargebacks are minimal. So it doesn't matter in the end. Like what people are throwing out in their trash cans, it just doesn't matter, right?
So it does. I mean, it does. If the crew were to wheel up to a residential toter that is completely full of cardboard, it could get a tag and not be picked up. And it's not necessarily a violation. It is a different truck that should pick this up. And it's to be packaged in a different manner. So cardboard should be bundled, wrapped in the container in a different manner. So the staff, this is not changing how we run the business. It's just clarifying the definitions on what we consider appropriate for the containers, appropriate material. Like if the cardboard, if there are 3 pieces of cardboard in a residential trash can, staff may or may not pick that up depending on the mode of function. If it's a downpour day and it's raining, they're going to want to hustle and get their stuff done and get through there. Is the cardboard wet or is it pizza oil, right? They're not going to really know the difference at that time. It's going to go with it in the garbage truck. The same way with the recycling container. The recycling container is wet on a rainy day. Is it wet from oil or is it wet from rain? They're not going to be in the position to stand there and go, should I or shouldn't I? They're going to toss it in the truck and run. So, I mean, the residential quantity piece, we don't have, well, we have a set standard for what's max capacity. Every city resident is eligible for 2 toters. So outside of the toters, they've already reached their max capacity. As far as the resident or the recycling bins, we have, you know, if you want 4, right? So the capacity, the volume piece is independent on the resident themselves.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Bay, you still have the floor.
I'm not taking away from the fact that I'm trying to help with the conversation.
I'll come back to you.
It was just, the city attorney and I were just talking, and it does seem like there is some consternation, particularly with cardboard, because so many of our residents deal with cardboard, and Amazon comes to your house 3 or 4 times a week, right? So what if we just struck cardboard from this from the class 3 material definition, just take cardboard out because it is causing confusion. It won't change the day-to-day practices that we've, as Mr. Warrenfeld has said, the basic practice is what we were trying to memorialize here, but if it's really not helping, it's only confusing things. If we strike it, I think that might address your concern, council member, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, it addresses the concern regarding cardboard, but not plastic and other stuff. I mean, it's a step in the right direction for sure. But I don't think it's not the cardboard that's bothering me. It's just like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what everyone else up here thinks, but for me personally, I think, my legislative position is we should pick up people's trash, and if they put cardboard and plastic in their trash cans, then we should pick that up. So that is my position. I don't want people to have to go through a special process to get rid of cardboard, or, let's say they have a household appliance that fits in the trash can that they want to dispose of. I don't want them to have to go through a special process to get that taken away. So that's my position, as an elected representative up here. And that's what I think that we owe our citizens who live here, and all of our residents as well, who expect to just have their trash picked up unless they're doing something really crazy with their trash. I've walked around on trash collection day and people put all kinds of things in their trash can. But you're right, a big part of it is in fact cardboard, because people get a lot of deliveries these days from Amazon and other places, and they want to be able to dispose of it. And if we're just going to start randomly tagging people's trash cans because they had too much cardboard in there, I mean, we're going to have a revolution on our hands. So.
Councilmember, do you mind if I ask a
Please,
friendly question?
Oh,
You still
sure.
have the floor. It's just,
Absolutely. Go
I'm
for it.
just curious, because I'm following your reasoning. I'm just curious, and maybe you want to ask this, maybe not, I'll wait my turn. I'm just curious if class 3 material is a definition, if that's defined somewhere else, or if that's a definition of our own creation. And so you still have the floor.
I believe it is. I'm going to lean out of the window here a little bit again. I'm not a legal expert. I'm not in a capacity up here as a legal expert. So anything I say on legal things is not to be taken as legal advice. But my understanding is that it is a definition in Florida statutes, and it's a landfill designation for inert industrial waste. And so I think if we just focus in on the fact that it's for industrial waste, we can just easily develop a distinction from that by saying things that are generated by households are just not industrial waste because they're not generated by an industry. So I don't see the need to use that classification for household waste. So just exempt anything generated by a household from this definition, right? And then we're back to the status quo, which we currently have. And then if you have an industry, then by all means, if they're an industry, make them follow this rule for cardboard, make them follow it for plastic. I don't care. They're an industry. They can deal with that better, right? They're an industry and they know how to deal with industrial waste because that's what they're supposed to do, because that's their job. So that's how I'm thinking about it. Yeah. Sorry, that wasn't really a question. I apologize for that.
You're
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
I'm done.
So
I've had it.
in the Florida Administrative Code 62701-200, Class 3 is defined in there in a very similar fashion that we have it. The wording is obviously not word for word, but it is a very similar. Class 3 waste means yard trash, construction demolition debris, processed tires, asbestos, carpet, cardboard, paper, plastic, furniture other than appliances, and other materials approved by the department that are not expected to produce leachate that possesses a threat to public health and the environment. So we are very similar in our definition as the Florida Administrative Code.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do want to say when you're talking industrial, the cardboard recycling industrial, we do as a division have instances where commercial cardboard recyclers contaminate their cardboard containers. We then have to send a different truck out to treat that as solid waste and not a recyclable at that point. So as far as the definition, departmental wise, I'm comfortable with the way it is because it allows the department to handle it whether it's residential or commercial.
Yeah, all I'm asking for is for a different rule for the residential side, that's all. So if we can exempt them, or we can just say that these rules don't apply to residential households or something like that. I don't want to lump the residential households in with the industrial businesses. That seems like the wrong direction for this, and I think it's, I don't think most people even think about trash pickup, and it's best that way, right? Like, we shouldn't have to have our residents thinking about their trash. It should just be dealt with in the same way that the sewer is just dealt with, or the roads are just dealt with. That's what we're here for. We're here to make sure that these basic services run smoothly. and that people don't have to think about whether they're, filing the right permit to get their cardboard picked up that they ordered. That's my concern. So my personal preference, I'll make a motion up here if I have to, is to exempt residential households from this. If they're not generating industrial quantities of these things, like you said, the chargebacks are really minimal. Like, it can easily be absorbed. It's, you said, single-digit dollars. I mean, so it's not a big deal, right?
So, is your suggestion to exempt residential properties from being Class 3 required?
We could do it that way, yeah.
I think that would be terrible.
Okay, well, let's talk about what would work here then. So if you want to, let's zero in on the main categories then. So let's take cardboard, plastic, yard trash. We have a separate pickup, right?
Councilmember, I do want to, I'm not trying to take away from, but I want to make sure we do this according to the right order. So if we're going to get into the discussion, we're kind of outside of the question stuff at this point.
Oh, yeah, sure, fair enough.
Yeah, other people have questions that, but I mean, I'm not trying to squash wall.
I've had my 10 minutes, it's fine. Look, it's, I think, let's have a discussion about it. I think, also, we don't have to fix this here. We can just say, please go back and make this nicer for residents, or something like that. So with that, I'll give up the floor.
Yeah, I think some of us have some thoughts on this too, but I don't want to, we're taking away from the question stuff. So, okay, so you had a question, Councilman?
Can you go back to when you first came up, you made your discussion, you were talking about the actual quantity. Now, your interpretation, your comments earlier, your quantity, basically, if I remember correctly, was basically pretty much you can put anything in there as long as it fits within the can and it's not, it's not laying on the, 2x4s, 8-foot 2x4s sticking out the top with sheets of drywall and so forth, and a 9x12 carpet hanging over top of is that what you're saying?
Correct.
And that fits within our rules?
Correct.
Okay. My concern, and now where would paint and things of this nature fall into that?
So they fall under the hazardous waste, which we do
Okay.
not collect.
Okay, that's fine. I understand. So, I mean, if we start exempting this, whatever a family can put into a residential trash can, it's exempted, we don't have to worry about it. You start finding cans of paint and everything else in there, I would assume, potentially. And then we have another set of problems. And I also believe that we're talking about cardboard and contaminant, and the chargebacks you're talking about from our recycler.
Correct.
And if we throw cardboard into we cut up 100 Amazon boxes, they're not going to you'll fill up your recycling, the rest going to go into the tan trash cans, and they're going to get picked up and tossed. That's not being recycled. There is no chargebacks or credits for any of that. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay.
And everything we haul to the incinerator is considered a recycled product because it goes there to be burned for.
To be burned, okay, but it's not the recycling and the green bins, which is going to the recycling, whoever the company is at this day and age, that recycles it, and then we get a check back or whatever.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm good.
Councilmember Fernandez.
So my question, I have a couple, and that is, with the definition, it seems like the state definition that you read off addresses some of the concerns. So for example, where we say examples include, cardboard, carpet, construction and demolition debris, if we say that, if we just exempt a residential household from adhering to any Class 3 materials, does that mean that if they went through and took all the carpet out of their house, they could just cut it up and put it in cans? Or would that still be construction debris?
So if it's part of a renovation project, that is construction demolition. If you have carpet squares in your home and one is contaminated with, it's bleached out from the sun, you pull your carpet square out, you put it in your trash can, I highly doubt, and Frank, the assistant manager's here, I highly doubt the staff throughout the day is gonna see one carpet square and the number of cans that they toss in the truck every day. It's just gonna be processed with the other materials, it's gonna go to the incinerator, and it's gonna be turned into fuel.
So So I guess what I'm saying is, it's not necessarily, at least the way I see it, it's not necessarily exempting a household, it's certain types of trash can't go in the trash can.
Correct. And this is, this is not new. This is the
Right.
practice that's been forward. It's the definition that got clarified.
Yeah, it seems to me the definition you read, that's the definition in the state, that seemed more clear to me. So I just am curious why we wouldn't just use that definition.
We can. I mean, it's just the words in a different fashion.
That's all my questions.
Vice Mayor?
I have none.
I have a question, Mr. Warrenfield. I share some of the concerns of Councilmember Kravitz on the definitions, but it seems to me, and I'm trying not to get into the discussion because that's going to come in a few minutes, but I need your opinion on something before we have the discussion. I'm concerned about exempting household from Class 3 materials because they very likely put out yard waste, they put out furniture sometimes, they put out appliances, and that needs to be handled a different way. So if we take them out of the thing, but it seems like we could remove 2 words in this definition, at least it's, and this is what I want your opinion on. What if we just remove cardboard and plastic? Because everything else that you list here, carpet, well, we don't want you guys picking up carpet in the normal household trash. Construction and demolition debris, we wouldn't expect you to do that either. Yard trash, there's a separate day and procedure for that. And furniture and appliances, there's a separate day and procedure for those things too. So if we just eliminated cardboard and plastic from your Class 3 material definition, I don't know that we'd have a debate up here at all. Now, my question is, what impact would that have on your intent for the ordinance? Is that more significant to me than it seems?
No, it wouldn't.
Could we just remove those 2 words? Hypothetically, if we have our discussion and.
Yeah, I would say have your discussion, but the way the operation runs, the purpose of the amendments were to clarify the definitions and get it more aligned with industry standards. If removing 2 words fits the bill for residential purposes, it's not going to change the way the operation runs. I mean, if the staff were to see a toter completely full of cardboard, they're most likely still going to tag that for the recycling truck to grab it when they come through.
Yeah, but I understand what our colleague is saying though, and that is that, I know how you're going to operate is one thing, but the language in the ordinance counts.
For sure.
And if you just read this definition, it says cardboard and plastic, and it doesn't qualify that in any way. It just says cardboard and plastic aren't going to be picked up. And, but if you go to a few pages back where it talks about household garbage, it says, of course now I can't find, there we go, non-hazardous waste generated by the normal daily activities of households. Right, and then later on it talks about, Class 3 debris. But I kind of see what we're talking about here with those 2 words being in there. That seems to make sense to me, and I don't see, maybe I'm missing something, but it seems like we could take those 2 words out and we'd all be happy. I don't know yet, but city manager, is that, I mean, I don't want to do something willy-nilly up here that has an unintended consequence.
No, I think that's fine. I'm looking at it, and of course, I'm speaking as a layperson here. My biggest concern would be construction, demolition, debris. You want to make sure that people don't start abusing the residential containers for that, which would still be included based on the direction that at least you're going right now, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Council, are we ready for discussion? We have any other questions for Mr. Warrenfields? Okay. City Attorney.
Just real quick, you'll be asking for the reading of and then a motion and then discussion? You're reading of the title? And here's the reason I ask. Depending on what you do may affect what your motion is. If there's going to be a big change, we might have to go back to first reading.
But
That's why I just want, you may want to have a little
Yeah,
bit
but
of discussion now.
Well, that's what I was asking for, is to have a little discussion before. I mean, we do have a little flexibility. I don't have to necessarily have a motion to. So, yes, we're going to, I think, I'm guessing that we may have a brief discussion, have an idea what we want to do. But I'm going to go back to Councilmember Kravitz, if you want to be recognized, since you're the one that had the most,
Thank you very much. I have a thought where we might not need to play with the definition. Just reading, I've had a little time now to work my way through this revision that I have here, and it occurs to me that, so in section 22.336, we have the definition, and then in section 22.337, which is the section that follows right after it, we have the prohibition of picking up the things that are in that definition. So instead of exempting solid waste completely, like I was suggesting, what we could do in section 22.337 is we could say, the categories of waste that you were talking about, cardboard, plastic, are exempted for residential solid waste, because we already have a definition just a little bit higher on that page of residential solid waste, which is exactly almost what I was suggesting. Residential solid waste is the non-hazardous waste generated by the normal daily activities of households. So I was saying, we don't want the stuff that households normally generate just on a day-to-day basis to be captured by this quite in that way. But I do understand the concern about throwing out, really heinous items, and that we might want to also capture with this. But we can just exempt in section 22.337 that the prohibition will apply, right? So that would be the other angle. But I think at the end of the day, all of us, many of us perhaps, seem to agree that we shouldn't be prohibiting people quite in that way from putting plastic and cardboard into their trash. So I think there is a consensus on that point. And at the end of the day, how we get there is maybe not a question. Personally, I would never draft a statute just like off the top of my head like we're doing right now almost, but it might be worth sending back for a revision in my mind so that we can make sure to carve that out for people who live here so that they don't need to worry. And I completely agree. What we put in the statute absolutely does matter, because that's what's the law, The law says do this, or this is the way it's supposed to be done, regardless of how, often kind and extremely generous the sanitation workers are in picking things up that they don't necessarily need to. And, I've seen people literally just put bags of trash next to their trash can, and they'll still take it with, even though it's outside of the, so, I have absolutely no criticism of our sanitation staff. They're fantastic. They're incredibly popular. Everyone loves you, honestly. So, and I'm just trying to make sure that this statute is something that reflects how we feel and want to treat everyone. So that's where I'd go with that. So we could address it from the back end here in section 337 instead of doing it in the front end at section 336, and personal preference.
council members? I think the simplest thing we could do right now, we could do tonight, we could just take those two words out and the rest of it is fine. If we start getting into the other section, in an attempt to do the same thing, it gets a little more complicated, because who defines what's normally produced by a residential? I mean, how big is a roll of thrown out carpet have to become? Well, hang on a second. How long is it? How big does a roll of carpet have to become, and how more frequently? But when it crosses the line between what's normally, you put words like what's normally, that's just a recipe for subjectivity. Where if we take cardboard and plastic out, what remains is stuff that we all agree we don't want them picking up: carpet, construction and demolition, yard trash, furniture, appliances. That's all that's left in there. So I mean, we could get this done, in my opinion, tonight, as opposed to sending it back. I think we're all trying to get to the same place, but I think it becomes a little more problematic when we went with the language in the next section, which is except for stuff normally. That's hard. I mean, remember, we have a lot of people that have home businesses too in the garage, and so, I mean, that becomes a little, what's normal for you might not be normal for somebody else. That gets a little hard to. I would be in favor with just taking those two words out, pass it, if it doesn't work as intended. I mean, then we're protecting our residences from not being able to get stuff picked up. And if it needs further revisions in the future, I mean, we could certainly do that if it doesn't work out the way it, I mean, I hear what you're saying about having that in there, but go ahead.
I'm in favor of pulling cardboard and plastic, as long as there's no unintended consequences.
Well,
And I'm not sure what,
yeah.
we're not gonna know what that could be. But, so, I mean, if we do that, we pay, and it comes back, I mean, the ordinances can be modified again to clarify that in the future. You're never gonna get it right, I don't say right, but you're never gonna get it exactly the way you want it, because things change. So I could support that, of excluding cardboard and plastic in the definition. But because in reality, it's gonna have, you're gonna take, y'all gonna take it anyway, so, you know, as long as it's not, you know, so, I mean.
Could you live with that if we did that tonight? I mean.
Yeah, sure. If it's a problem later, we can always.
We can.
Always fix it later.
I think we have the same idea about what we're trying to do for the residents. So, council members, other?
I agree. I think we do what we've been discussing the concerns are by removing the word cardboard and plastic from the definition.
Yep. Okay. Council members, since you kind of drove the charge on this, would you like to make a motion?
No problem. So.
Public hearing, you gotta read the ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I did that twice tonight. Okay. Anything else for the public hearing before we? I will close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending Chapter 22 of the City of Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances, Utilities, Article 6, Solid Waste Collection and Disposal, by amending Section 22-336, Definitions, retitling and renaming Section 22-337, Collection of Construction, Demolition, and Class 3 Material by Ordinary Services, amending Section 22-338, Collection by City, amending Section 22-339, Collection supervised by Director of Public Works, appeal to City Manager, amending Section 22-340, Collection Practices for Residential Solid Waste, amending Section 22-341, Collection Practices for Yard Waste, renaming and amending Section 22-342, Special Annual Pickups, amending Section 22-343, Collection Practices for Residential Recyclables, amending Section 22-344, Collection Practices for Commercial Collection, by renaming and amending Section 22-345, Storage of Solid Waste, Trash, Recyclables, and Yard Debris, renaming and amending Section 22-346, Disposal of Dangerous, Hazardous Waste, amending Section 22-347, Service by Private Hauler Contractors, providing for severability, directing for the codification of the amendment, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's a mouthful. Okay, Councilmember Kravitz, would you like to make a motion?
No. I do, yeah, thank you. So, question to the city attorney, is it sufficient if I read from the words "an ordinance" to "and disposal" for the purposes of this motion?
I'm sorry, what's your question again?
If I make a motion to pass this agenda item 12D, is it sufficient if I read the title, read in the motion the title from the words "an ordinance" to "and disposal," or do I need to go all the way to the bottom? Is it sufficiently legally clear what I'm referring to? If I
Yes,
read,
because the
Okay.
clerk's read the entire titles.
Just checking, thank you. Okay, so, in that case, I will move to approve agenda item 12D, an ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending Chapter 22 of the City of Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances, Utilities, Article 6, Solid Waste Collection and Disposal, with the modification that in Section 22-336, titled Definitions, the fifth paragraph will be changed so that the words plastic and cardboard are struck therefrom.
Okay, we have a motion, and I'm passing the gavel to the vice mayor, and I'm going to second the motion. So,
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Give the gavel back.
I like the gavel.
Thank you, Mr. Warrenfeld. Last council action item is a resolution approving amendment number 2 to fiscal year 2026's budget, and our finance director, Jim Ingram, has been patiently waiting for the opportunity to explain. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. During the first 5 months of fiscal year 2026, a few expenditures not included in the adopted fiscal year 2026 budget emerged. Exhibit 1 contains a list of unbudgeted expenditures needing to be added to the fiscal year 2026 budget. Exhibit 1 details the purchase order numbers, vendor, GL account, item or project description, amount balance for budget amendment, and the appropriated fund balance accounts to provide funds to balance the budget. So we have 4. The first one is additional outside legal services of $14,000. The legal department was $14,783 under budget for fiscal year 2025. This would be to appropriate $14,000 of the savings to the fiscal year 2026 legal outside counsel budget to allow the legal department to continue contracting services as needed for the remainder of the fiscal year. Number 2, the EOC Construction Administrative Services of $128,190. This reflects the change order approved by City Council on February 17, 2026, to appropriate $128,190 of community investment tax reserves, estimated to be $1.8 million at 2026 fiscal year's end, for additional EOC construction administration services. Third, CRA legal and professional services at $17,393. This adjustment appropriates funds from the tax increment fund reserves to cover the cost for legal and professional services related to the Blazing Paddles proposal. TIF reserves are estimated to be $782,666 at 2026 fiscal year's end. Finally, EPC in-kind projects, $183,181. This is to appropriate funds needed for 3 in-kind projects approved by the Environmental Protection Commissions to offset penalties. These projects and appropriations from water and sewer utilities and renewal replacement fund reserves were approved by City Council on November 18, 2025. Water and sewer utilities reserves are estimated to be $5.2 million at 2026 fiscal year's end. Renewal replacement reserves are estimated to be $1.3 million at 2026 fiscal year's end. The 3 projects are West River CIPP lining project for $34,750, North River Hills to Ridgedale manhole rehab for $67,387, and a sanitary lift station 80 kilowatt diesel generator for $81,044. Staff recommends that Council adopt a resolution to amend the fiscal year 2026 budget, and I will stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Are there members of the public who wish to comment? Seeing none, council members, questions? Are there questions? Okay, if there are no questions, Councilman, is there a motion?
To approve, resolution approving the budget amendment number 2 for the fiscal 2026 budget as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No nays. Resolution's adopted. Thank you, Mr. Ingram.
Thank you.
Council, is there any carryover council business to report or discuss from previous?
Question.
Yes.
You made a reference, you may have just been facetious, you made a reference to the soon-to-be well-known Alyssa. Is there
Oh,
something that?
no, no,
Okay,
no,
just aggravating.
no.
Okay, that works.
Just
Okay,
gaining
just
fame.
curious, just
Gaining
curious.
fame.
Okay.
Any other council business?
New items.
Okay. Any new business and board reports? Yes, Councilmember Fernandez.
First, I would like to let the public know that tonight at King High School, during the Saladino tournament, Addison Barger, a recent King High School graduate, who played baseball for King High School and now plays for the Toronto Blue Jays, had his number retired. So that's exciting. He's a professional baseball player. And then I do want to ask about the architectural elements with the former Tomasino building, because I suspected that when they got into the renovation project that they would find that the building was not as easy to preserve, but I'd like to see if before it's demolished, we can salvage some architectural elements or examples of the construction process that building exhibits. And then my last item is I've been asked for the growth, the plant growth in the river. I think it's Hillsborough County, but I'm not sure what jurisdiction actually goes around and sprays and I've been asked what it is that they're spraying on those plants to control the excess growth. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Nothing.
I think Mr. Bayou, I think, is going to get you answers. Okay, other council business, or new business, we're on new business. Councilmember Kravitz?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say also thank you earlier for the second on that motion. I appreciate it. And I wanted to ask Councilmember Chambers, is there any interest in developing that idea about maybe using some of the Adopt a Tree Fund to spruce up downtown's landscaping?
Yes. Anything we can do to help our businesses look better.
We just spent $60,000 for several hundred trees on the golf course. I don't know what a reasonable.
I mean, that's assuming that it meets the ordinance requirements, but also the businesses probably now can request trees, I would think. I don't know.
I don't know if they can on private property, can they?
Well, the private property owner could request.
I mean,
trees.
homeowners can, so I don't know. It's something to research.
True, they might, I don't know.
I think they could request a tree. Sorry to jump in, but I think I remember a discussion some time ago where we were considering whether we could use the Adopt a Tree Fund for things other than trees. So, for example, installing shrubs or other landscape features, mulch, things like that. And I think what we determined was that we could. So if that's an option, that would give us a lot more freedom in how we might enhance downtown.
I don't know if it's an option or not, but someone I'm sure is looking at it. I can hear it.
What I would ask is, would it be possible to potentially use the tree fund to give grants for, overall landscape improvement that is specifically associated with street side? Because not all of those properties are suitable for actually putting a tree.
Sure.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah, we could create a grant possibility, so people could make an application to Joe Ferris, perhaps, or whoever might be
You would have to create the whole process, and you would have to do it so someone wouldn't keep getting their mulch free forever. You know, things like that. I mean, we want to enhance. So,
But I do have a question. So obviously, you won't have the answer tonight, but we know what we're going to be spending on the golf course re-tree and tree management, but we don't have the report yet for all of the city public space. So we don't really know right now what would be encumbered from the tree fund to fulfill that report. But I would be very interested, it's on my list for goal setting to talk about that, but, so I can't commit to this until I know what the possibility is, but I think it's a good idea.
I'm happy to make a motion to ask staff to report back on what the possibilities are in the next 2 to 4 weeks, if that would be amenable.
Again,
I'm not real thrilled about ever putting a date on that.
Yeah,
We
I'm
don't
not.
know, but
I don't know, it's just me.
I don't know, but there's
I'm not in
somebody
favor-
that may have some information.
I'm not in favor of motions just to ask them to do something and
Yeah,
come back and
right.
report. I just think that's,
Yeah, but
it treats them.
Mayor, Mr. Pauly
I
is,
know.
okay, you got it.
Thank you, sir. The information I'm getting ready to share with you is fresh as of just about 4 hours ago. Staff would request that we be careful about committing the tree fund, because in less than a month, you're going to get a plan that is very intense and goes over the course of 21 years. The goal of the plan is to raise the entire city's canopy by 10%, from 41 or 42 up to the 50s. So that would be my only comment, and that's fresh information just as of this afternoon that hit my desk. No idea what that's going to cost at this point, but it's going to be expensive.
Okay, so I don't think that means that we can't ever have a conversation about it. I just think we need to get this first and then figure out where we are.
Good to hear about that, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah.
I like the grant idea. That's pretty interesting. I guess we could explore it maybe by doing a more conservative appropriation out of TIF funds, maybe $5,000, and see, split that up into $1,000 grants and see if a business wants to take advantage of that. That would be a possibility, maybe.
I mean, it could be, but I think staff has an idea of what we're thinking, and they're gonna have to look at other jurisdictions and all to see what's out there that could help us, so. It's not a 2-week process.
Yeah, for me, I'd rather just wait until we get this
Yeah.
and see what we're
Yeah.
dealing with, and then if we have the ability to, this is not, I'm thinking, this sounds really easy, and I'm not opposed to the idea, but I'm thinking of nothing's as easy as it seems. Like, okay, so how are we gonna put some guardrails on this just to keep from landscaping everybody's private property?
Right.
If they happen to abut a road, we're gonna all of a sudden landscape their property, so we can't, I mean, it's gotta be some limits to this. 2 is, how do we ensure that they're doing this correctly so that they don't plant all these beautiful plants that we pay for half of, and then they don't have an irrigation system to support it and they die, or they don't fertilize them ever, they don't ever maintain them, which is why they need new landscaping to begin with, because they let everything die. So, I mean, it's not that it can't be done, it's just that there's a lot to think about here in doing it. But I don't know that it's even worth asking them to do all that work if we find out in a month we don't have any money to do it with anyway. So, although there could be other sources of money besides the tree fund, so maybe, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, there is some precedence for this because in the early stages of the full CRA development, the city did offer we offered
Yeah.
grants for facade improvement, and I think that funding came out of TIF funds.
It could be.
But I don't want to necessarily commit anything right this minute, because one, I want to know what this tree plan includes, but two, I don't know if I would rather have more discussion about the full use of TIF funds, because we may decide that there's actually a better use for it than this. I don't know, but I think it's more of a robust discussion than deciding tonight. But there is some guidance in our past grant program that might give some guidance.
My personal opinion right now tonight is that it's a good idea for us to talk about. I'd rather wait until we see how much funding we have in that fund and see what we're doing, what's the goal, and is there a way to, I mean, if we can do something reasonable that is going to enhance the appearance of our, yeah, I think that's a terrific idea. I just don't want to send them off doing that level. I mean, it'll still be a good idea in a month. You know, I mean, we're not going anywhere, so, yes.
That was going to be my comment, that we were going to have this tree option. The canopy survey was going to be coming back shortly anyway. The only other concern I have would be with utilizing TIF monies, that we take too much TIF money now, we're encumbering the future payments on the balance of the loan, which is really what that's intended to be for. I mean, we can do nickel and dime here and there, but and I would think that any kind of grant program would require a modification to the existing ordinance, because I believe that covered public land. I don't believe that covered private property, commercial storefronts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we'd have to review all of that. I agree, it's a good idea. It's something to help with overall green trees and shrubs and everything. But I think the next few months, a lot of things are going to come forth and going to become evident to us that we can work with it.
Okay. Well, Councilmember Kravitz, you still have the floor.
Just a quick comment in conclusion. So I'm happy that there's interest in that. There are a lot of different ways to activate downtown and make it more pleasant. And this is just a comment in general terms about the food truck idea. I think it has the potential, if we do it right and maybe with a little bit more of a lead, and if we develop it as something that people anticipate and that they're looking forward to, that it might even be revenue neutral or revenue positive for us, since it was such a small cost originally. If we can make it attractive enough to enough food trucks, and we had 6, which is a good number, perhaps next time we can increase that. I don't know if there's a space for it, but if there is, we can get more. And we might even be able to get other vendors to come. Maybe a farmer's market would be quite interesting. And then all of a sudden, we're using that large space while we have it, before it's sold, to generate an attractor. And we can charge rent to the vendors if it becomes popular enough, if there are enough customers, which, if you've sold out all of your food, it is attractive enough. You should be making a good profit. And that will hopefully lead to a situation where we're not subsidizing it, although 2,000 is a very low subsidy, but in my perfect world, we're breaking even, or we're even making a little bit of money every time we do it. So just something to consider if we're going forward. That's all I have to think.
Okay. And for those who weren't here for the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting, this Councilmember Kravitz had the idea that we have at least another or maybe other events like the food truck event that we had at the redevelopment property. The council, or them sitting as the CRA board, agreed that would be a good idea to look into, and city manager is going to talk to staff to determine what it would take to make that happen and report back to us. So, thank you. Anything else? You still have the floor? No? New business. I have 2 quick things. One is an announcement. Suncoast League of Cities is having its next meeting, membership meeting, is in connection with the event called Chili Blaze over in Pinellas Park on Friday evening. The Suncoast League meeting is at 5 o'clock Friday at the Pinellas Park Performing Arts Center. Everybody is welcome to attend, and our guest speaker will be Florida League of Cities President Holly Smith, who's Vice Mayor of Sanibel. She'll be coming up for the meeting and the event. As soon as the meeting concludes at 6 o'clock, we will adjourn. Right outside is the event. So we'll walk right out and walk into the Chili Blaze event. I have not been to the Chili Blaze event before, so I can't tell you much about that. I know the name is Chili Blaze, so it's chili oriented, but I don't know much about it. So, the second thing is this is kind of tongue in cheek, but there's always some truth in stuff like this. I was talking to the new USF president, Dr. LeMayem, over the weekend, and he was kidding to me, half kidding to me. He goes, "You should put me on commission." And I said, "Well, why would we do that? Because you guys are holding all the money." And he says, "You should put me on commission because I'm hiring a bunch of people that want to live in Temple Terrace. I'm hiring a bunch of people that are moving here and they want to live in Temple Terrace." Now, that's a shift, if that's a shift, because Tampa Palms, New Tampa, Hunters Green, that's always been where they, and I don't know how many he says, but it's enough that he joked that we should be paying him a commission, so it must be, I don't know if it's their stadium or if it's the food truck event, I don't know, but something is going on right, because that comment would not have been made 2 or 3 years ago, so, anyway.
Send him an edible arrangement?
What's that?
Can we send him an edible arrangement?
Yeah. So that's what he said. I didn't ask him, Bill. Any other new business? Okay, Mr. Bia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. At the last meeting, Councilmember Fernandez reminded me actually about the spectrum issue. So for the folks in the audience and or watching at home, if you have a traditional cable box, this has probably not impacted you at all yet, but Spectrum is moving towards more of a streaming box and what they call their channel distribution network. And for people who have been transitioned to that new box, what's happening is that Spectrum hasn't yet moved all the public education and government channels, the PEG channels, over yet. So we contacted their Spectrum representatives, and they've indicated to us that the company's goal is to move all the PEG channels, not just for us, over to the what they're calling that channel distribution network. But it's going to take some time because there's a large number of these PEG channels throughout the state or the region. They anticipated, well, they couldn't give us a definitive answer. Informally, in discussing with another member of the Spectrum team, they hoped that within 3 months they might have our channels over. So that's what we will follow up with them if that does not happen, and we will continue to report back to the council. And that is all I have.
Councilmember Fernandez, did that answer everything you needed?
Yes, I want to make sure anybody watching, this is specifically for people who are using the app on a phone or a tablet device, not if you're watching TV with your traditional box.
Okay. Any questions for city manager? Okay, city attorney.
Yeah, just real quick, I have one lien reduction to report for property located at 306 South Burlingame Avenue. That property was foreclosed, and as a result, 3 code enforcement board liens that were attached to the property were extinguished in that foreclosure. Even though the liens were then wiped out, the city did collect costs in the amount of $145.
Good. Anything else? Any questions for the city attorney? Very well. Anything else to come before the council tonight, before we adjourn? None of you are getting up, I can guarantee you that, right? Okay, very good. Thank you again for all your hard work, and Chief Murley, thank you for your staff, tremendous work, and Chief Staley, thank you for that. So, all right, we all adjourned.
He can be bumped.